Oh, make them at worse.
All right, here we go. So I'm here live with Team Armadillo in the studio. This will stream at 7:30 after we've done the writers meeting tonight. So I'm going to let these guys introduce themselves. Team Armadillo, tell us who you are and where you're from.
All right. Hey, I'm David Powell. I'm currently from Sanger, Texas, north of Fort Worth.
David Lucas from Grand Prairie, Texas, just south of DFW.
Did you forget who you were for a second?
Just for a second, I sure did. I had to think about it. That's how.
Multiple takes, so you got to forgive these guys. We had a technical error earlier. We're actually doing a retake now. So same set of questions. Tell us a little bit. Give me your riding CV, and then maybe as part of that, tell us how you found out about the Tour of Idaho and what made you think it was a good idea to punish yourself this way.
All right. I got my first dirt bike when I was 13. Rode as a teenager, and then moved on to school and life and work and all that stuff. Rode street bikes all my adult life, and then back in 03, 04, got back into dirt biking. Signed up, got tired of riding the same places. We have limited areas to ride down in Texas, so signed up to TCCRA, our local racing club, to just to have more properties to ride on. So got hooked on that bug. So since 2008 till now, we race that local regional stuff every other weekend. And since 2013, we do a week-long trip to Taylor Park, Colorado, and ride up there. We also ride some adventure bikes. And back on our last adventure bike trip from about this time last year, we were doing the Arizona, Utah, Colorado BDRs. We kind of combined them, and Dave here was telling me about the Tour of Idaho. So
you guys were talking about through your Cena headset.
Yeah, through our Cena headset.
Riding down the road.
And, so he's the one that kind of mentioned it. So that's kind of my riding background.
Yeah, I started riding somewhere around 6 years old, dirt bikes, and nothing competitive till somewhere around 1994. And then we've been racing our local series TCCRE ever since. Basically raised both my kids racing. My wife races. Started riding street bikes somewhere around 2007, and then got into some adventure bike riding probably around 2014, and then just doing some of the BDR riding. None of it, all that stuff is good fun, but none of it's real technical. And then again, we were out in doing our Utah, Arizona, Colorado BDR riding, and me and Patrick talking back and forth through the headsets, and that I'd mentioned to him about the Tour of Idaho, and found something that's probably a lot more technical and just as long, which is a little crazy, but it's kind of how the whole adventure started almost a year ago July.
Yeah, so we kind of like the big adventures. We were a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, we did an adventure bike ride to the Arctic Circle.
Yeah, you were telling me about that. That's intense.
Yeah, we rode he only had 2 weeks off, so we rode from Fort Worth to the Arctic Circle and back, a little over 9,000 miles in 17 days. So, we've done a lot of miles, a lot of racing, all that kind of stuff. And when he mentioned the Tour of Idaho, I'd never heard of it, and I'm like, sign me up, So, unfortunately, by the time we got back, you'd already closed the group for last year, so we didn't get to watch the ongoing tour. But we've been studying up the tour ever since, watching all the PBRs, and we got to watch Team Salzal on the drive up here, and I was really disappointed when they fell out, because that was like crack watching them. And those POBs didn't update fast enough for us. So.
We in this group, we call that Dakar for poor people.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so I ask everybody basically the same questions every year, and I'll just go down the list. You've done day one, you've completed that, and day one we kind of made a certain way deliberately, and you guys can expound upon that as you want. What kind of lessons you learned from it? But tell me, what about D1 so far exceeded your expectations? Maybe things that surprised you, what you expected, what you didn't expect. Just sort of give us your rundown on sort of like the how it worked physically and emotionally for you as you wrote it.
I guess back up just a little bit. When we started signing up for the tour, and we read the rules and started watching the stuff. We had that same racer mentality that whatever, it can't be that hard. I don't need that crap.
We can finish faster than that.
We can finish faster than that, and as the planning process went on, and watching the PBR updates and listen to the Torkel's input, some of that stuff we started grabbing onto a little bit, but some of it we didn't.
Yeah, like in the original planning, we were like, well, we don't need a rest day on day 2. We're going to go straight into
there would be no way.
Second day. There is absolutely no way that I would have want to have gotten up this morning and started day 2 or way. 3. Day 2. They just not something I would want to do.
And originally we gave up. We decided to do the day 1 because we thought it would be too risky to get all the supplemental or the ancillary challenge points without taking it. So truly, that's why we and to shake down the bikes if we needed to. It really wasn't.
So all the reasons we tell you it's a good idea.
Everything that we even said on the headsets yesterday is everything Martin has told, he tries to sell, has come true. So yesterday, we watched Salzal get a late start, and we already had it in our mind. We wanted to be at the sign. It still needed to be dark at the sign, and when we seen that they got started late, but we still don't know. We've never done this, so when we seen they got started late, we made our decision for sure. We're going to get an early start, and we did. We were rolling from Malad at 3 a.m. not because we set our alarm, because we were flopping around in bed and said, let's get going anyway. So.
The audio just went out there. There we go. So it's back. Yeah, we talked about. I made a video of that earlier. A lot of people are going to make that mistake. It's not that big of a deal this year. It could be forgiven because the 2 trails are literally side by side. When I showed you on Google Earth a while ago.
I didn't.
And it was funny because we were to that point and we were at the creek, and I'm looking at Patch. He's looking at me. I'm like, it looks like it's over there, but. We couldn't figure out a way to get over there.
Yeah.
It's just we hadn't gone back the other direction far enough to get there. And I'm like, the points are there.
But we knew it. So when we got, we both stopped and said, all right, we can get to that challenge or that waypoint if we go up this way, and we'll just get to the flagpole. If it's a DQ kind of event, we're coming back. Yeah, we're coming back.
We're coming back.
We'll roll over them too.
Nobody ever gets DQ'd over stuff like that. Yeah, so we were talking a little bit earlier. We talked about how you guys felt that day 1 was not overly technical, but it's a lot of stuff that's kind of technical.
Yeah, it's
No, I'm just saying it's like he was saying, it's not overly technical, but there is a lot of technical stuff, and it's just a lot of it at one time. When you're riding, you're on the bike for I don't know. We were somewhere around 18 hours yesterday.
We
Maybe
felt
17.
we felt really good till we crossed out. So going up to Oxford Peak, Weston Peak, it's all new. We're excited.
Mm-hmm.
We're finally on the tour. It got a little technical going up to Oxford, but it wasn't terrible. And we crossed back over to Malad and started up. What was that? The Elkhorn Range, and we got on that skinny little sidetrack, which I didn't find all that fun.
Your first taste of sidewalk.
But then we got to the trail going up Kent's Canyon, and man, that was fun. That's fast flowing, kind of fun stuff. And then there's a nice little technical surprise for you.
Last 100 yards.
Yep.
There
Right
at
at
the
the
top.
end.
Yeah.
And of course, we ran into a team that had wrecked and was
Sitting on the side.
sitting on the side with some kind of problem. I think they were a T2 team. But we got on up there, and then we got on the Blair Witch, Mad Cow,
Also known as Fence Line Trail.
Fence Line Trail. And, that's when I started kind of getting tired, because that trail is it's long, and it's a lot of the same. And, it's a long trail. So we had to take a break.
I was going to say, it's at one point there, I think we were both getting tired, and I'm like, I found a shady spot under the tree. I'm like, let's take a break. Let's get something to eat and drink, whatever, some beef jerky, and just sit here for about 15, 20 minutes just to kind of gather everything back up.
And I was telling people while you guys were doing that, what a smart idea that is. And again, that indicates that you have some discipline. You had the discipline to talk each other down instead of talking each other up. And by that, I mean that I talked to a lot of groups that go, yeah, we're talking through our headsets. We kind of turned into a little mini race.
Yeah.
That's how people get hurt. You don't want to do that. What you want to be saying to each other, if you're wearing headsets, is this is the time to lift, not to put the hammer down. Yeah. Take it easy. And resting is incredibly important, because you don't really feel that fatigue sometimes creeping up on you until it's too late.
Yep.
And after the beating you got yesterday, you got 9 more days of the same.
Yeah,
exactly.
After we took that break, and we transitioned back across the interstate, and then we had that nice little hill climb to get into lava, and we were ready. We were ready for some lunch, so it didn't matter what the time. We knew we were going to be here by midnight, so we said we're stopping and getting some lunch. So,
although I will say the message from Martin at about 5:44 going, yeah, you only got about 3 hours left.
Well, the problem is we didn't see that. So Martin sends a message going, hey, you guys are doing great. You got about 3 hours. And, we had seen that after you'd sent it after one of the challenge points. And
so you probably saw it 2 hours after.
2 hours later, and we seen that. And
we both looked at each other like, Jesus.
Oh my God, it was only like 25 or
we felt like we only had about 25 or 30 miles. And he's like, oh yeah, 3 hours max. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
And again, so we went back and looked at when you sent that message, and again, spot on the money.
I mean, we literally pulled up at like 8:45, 8:30, 8:45.
That message was at 5:30.
And that message was, I mean, it was almost spot on.
Well, so the planning that you guys put into this really showed yesterday. There's a lot of discipline, one minor navigation error at the end, but the pace is so incredibly important on day one. That's the principal mistake that I see people make. And sometimes it's just an honest mistake. People don't get it. But more often than not, I mean, you guys alluded to this. People go, there's no way that's as involved as those guys say it is.
Yeah.
And we were even talking about tires yesterday. We suggest you show up with
bring
tires.
up a used tire, and we talked about that last night. Again, we agree with what Martin said. We put a fresh new tire on, and we'd have been better.
Yeah,
getting one.
Day one shreds tires like no other day was. So, if you decide to ride all the way from Utah to Salmon on the same set of tires, 50% of that wear will occur on day one.
Yeah, okay.
It just absolutely shreds tires. So there's absolutely nothing. In fact, I should take you out to my shop before you guys leave. I've got an entire room full of Tour of Idaho takeoffs. They go, yeah, just give them to the next person that needs them. And there's literally a room almost as big as this is full of tires.
We're happy we finished day one. We are by no means there's 9 more of them days to come.
Yeah, and we talked about that a little earlier, and I'll ask you some questions about that in just a minute. But the reason we made day one the day we did is that if you ride day one, like you guys didn't have that much trouble with it. You know, if you get here at 5 till midnight, you start at 3 in the morning, maybe you shouldn't go on.
Yeah.
But if you ride it the way you did, you guys got here, you weren't beat to death, you weren't puking in my driveway and stuff like that. You were in as good a spirits as anybody
Still
ever
smiling.
did. Still smiling.
Yeah.
You know, you did it in really good time. You rode at a good steady pace. All those, we set up day one to give you some confidence that unless something untoward happens, fire pops up in your way, the weather turns really bad, you have a mechanical, and your bikes look like they're well sorted out, you're probably going to be all right. The only thing we tell everybody is that there are days that are not harder than day one, but they are as hard and they're really deep into the tour. So day 8 in particular, and maybe day 9, depending on how much it's sawed. But by the time you get there, you guys will be able to chew logs in half with your teeth. So that's not that much of an issue. So while we're on that, let's talk about going forward. So, you know, most teams, I talked to you guys, so I know you did this. You know, you spend months looking at the maps and looking at the photos and kind of building an idea in your head of how it's all going to look. And it sounds like D1 was pretty close to what you
D1,
thought.
I pretty well had memorized. I had done so much study, and you know, when Jeff Jensen made his PBR Monday thing, I really enjoyed that part where he said, you know, like day 8 or whatever, you just kind of got a little lazy, I guess he said. But you know, same thing for us. I mean, we put so much emphasis, and it's so much work and time consuming, and you put all that study in the first half that, you know, you kind of get lazy on the last half. Of course, the last half doesn't have quite as much navigation to do, but I'm scared to death of having to reroute and you know, reverting to paper and the panic that sets in because of that, especially when you're tired. Because even last night with the little error there at the end,
it was a little bit of panic.
I mean, it's a little. I mean, we're exhausted and ready to get off that bike, and you know, then something happened, and that's the only thing that happened. We didn't have any bike issues. We didn't have any gear issues. I mean, we yesterday went perfect until that, and that little bit, you know, it changed our you know, for just a
mental
minute.
capacity was.
And then
maxed
after,
out.
you know, and even after we skipped those points, of course, it's bothering me. And we mutually decided we're going to just go in and see what we got to do. And but even after that, you know, I can't even hardly read the GPS. I mean, you're just tired and you're flustered. So that's the biggest fear for me going forward on the tour is you know, when the issues pop up. And I guess that's where you know, shine or you fail.
That's part of it. You know, the mental part of this is as tough as the physical part of it. You know, being able to get in a situation like that, take a deep breath, calm yourself, figure out the best way through it. In our little Come to Jesus Riders meeting tonight, by the way, we're going to talk about just that. How, for instance, once you hit the big red button on the PLB, you sit your ass down. Don't jump into side by side and take off. But that's another topic. So going forward, you guys have looked at these days. Tell me a day that maybe you're really looking forward to and why you're looking forward to that particular day, a day or maybe even a single trail or an area that you go through, and then maybe something that you have some apprehension about, both of you.
Well, I'm not looking forward to day 2.
That's because you read the description of comprehension.
I'm really looking forward to everything from day 3 to day 8, I think. Obviously day 6 north of North Fork, all the trails around North Fork.
That's the best part of it.
Yeah, I think we're looking forward to that the most. You know, I'm a little nervous about day 8 because you know, we want to take that's one of the challenge sections that we've got picked to take that 30-mile advantage that it gives you. Still a little apprehensive, you know. We talk with, you know, it's hard to find a lot of information on that Sherman Creek Trail, but mostly I'm just, you know, worried about you know, closures and changes. Yeah, day 6. That's what I'm looking for.
Same thing, day 6. You know, I think day two's the desert section, probably the one I'm probably most not worried about, just maybe most dreading.
What I'm really looking forward to, I hope we get to it, is the end of day 10.
Sundance Mountain.
Yes. That's gonna.
And a few years ago, we just put Sundance Mountain on. I think 5 or 6 years ago, the tour used to end in the worst place imaginable.
Yeah,
It was the end of this long dirt road that you could throw a rock into Canada, which was the attraction for it, but they closed the part that actually went to the border because of grizzly bear habitat concerns. But it was just this really depressing place way down in this deep valley. It stunk like there were always dead animals back there, and it was horrible.
Yeah.
And one year, there were some guys that finished really late. I think it was the year before we changed it to Sundance. And they're blasting down this road. Their stators are broke, so they don't have any lights.
Ooh.
And they're blasting down that road at like 2 a.m. with no lights by the moonlight. And all of a sudden, all these lights come on. Border Patrol had spotted them on camera somehow. And these guys, poor guys, know they're getting frisked up against the side of a Border Patrol car.
Day 4, after you leave Smoky Bar Store, from my map study, I haven't read a lot or heard a lot, but you climb up and you get up into those
Snow slide, yeah.
There's a bunch of high mountains right there. That, from looking at the maps, I'm kind of looking forward to that part too. I don't know about the trail conditions, but
they're all fine. Look, those Ketchum guys too have been out there every day, so they go cut it. They go back a few days later, they recut it. So by the time you get to Ketchum, until you get up north of Salmon somewhere, there have been some people that have been riding those trails pretty continuously to make sure that they're good.
Day 9 will be
Day 8 and day 9 are going to be the things to tell. But again, that's the reason we put a lot of bonus sections on this year. Pick up the easy bonus sections you can. If you get up there in Lundy Ridge, looks like it's got 300 down trees. Just you can poach the challenge point and then turn around and ride right back out, which soloists have to do anyway, right? The soloists have an option to poach that challenge point there at the switchback, and you can do the same thing. You've identified my favorite part of the tour starts at about the middle of D3 and goes all the way up until the middle of day 7. I think, to me, that's what it's all about, because that's where the best single track trails are. When you get way up north, I really like that stuff around the St. Joe. But by the time you get there, 2 things come up. One is that you're really tired by the time you get there. So you're not enjoying single track as much as you used to. And there's a couple of single tracks up there that are like 3 times the length of fence line. There's one in particular that's 30 miles long, maybe. And it's not fast. I mean, you got to take your time doing it. But everybody that gets to the end of that says they got down and kissed the dirt road when they got to it.
Oh, we're looking forward to it.
And it's really remote too. Like the cool thing about the day 1 trails, at least to me, is that they're a good warm up because you can always see the freeway down the valley.
Right.
You can hear cars a lot. Your cell phone works everywhere.
Yeah.
Except where Sawzall had their accident. That's the one place that cell phones don't work very well. All right.
We went by where they had their mishap, and I mean that's unfortunate because they had it in the bag.
They did. The problem with those guys, and they'll be the first to admit this, and I'm going to have them on a PBR Monday, so they can talk about it. They understand the series of steps that led to the unfortunate incident that they had. They're completely stand-up guys. There's no hum and haw. This wasn't really our fault. They owned up to all of it, which I find to be remarkable because, you guys race a lot, so you know how it is. You actually talked about bringing sort of a little bit of a racer mentality to this. And racers are the whiniest people in the world. If the course is 18 feet wide, there's going to be half of them saying it needed to be 20.
Yeah.
It's just, cutting corners and stuff. It never ends.
Well,
But
we were really rooting for them because now we're kind of
you're
Armadillo,
we're the lead
Sawzall.
team now.
you're Armadillo / Sawzall.
I don't work those very well.
You guys will be, I think, as fine as anybody can be up till day 8. Just poach all of the bonus sections that you can before then. Then you get up there, you can ride around stuff. So we got about 6 minutes left, and I'm just going to turn it over to you guys. I've asked all the questions that I normally ask. So, you got an audience out here right now. There's already, between the 2 platforms, I think there's 30 people watching you right now, and there'll be a few hundred tonight when it airs once again on PBR Monday. So, tell us what you think so far, and Just talk about it.
I think from what I've seen, the tour is serious. It's harder, longer. Need to prep and hopefully we can repeat tomorrow. Or, yeah, tomorrow. I hope we can repeat today and not even think about the rest because just reset every night. And,
Yeah, I was gonna say that
we're gonna give it an honest tip. We're not cocky. We're not overly. I mean, we don't have quit in us unless something happens.
Yeah, it's gonna take something pretty major for us to give it up. But anybody thinking about doing it, day one will definitely humble you.
It'll knock the cocky right out of
We
you.
ride a lot,
and like you said, we ride a lot, and
I'm shocked that it took us 18 hours to get here.
And we were having fun. I mean, yesterday was a blast from start to finish. The trails were fun. The climbs were fun. The scenery's beautiful. It's just a lot of it at one time.
And we only got, 1,700 to go.
So the guys at Power Sports are good friends of mine, have been for a long time, because well before I rode dirt bikes, I rode street bikes, and I always traded with those guys. And a few years ago, we decided to start making day one of the premier days for the reasons that have been discussed a lot. I told those guys, well, we're going to put this on there, this on there, this on there. There are guys down there that have won every race that you can win in the West. Smoot and all those guys, I don't know if you talked to Smoot today, but when I told those guys what we were going to do, they all looked at me and said, are you nuts? So, like the strongest riders I know, the strongest, fastest racers that I know say, I ain't ever doing that. You just knocked me out of Tour of Idaho contention because I'm not having anything to do with that.
And one of the mistakes we made, not a big mistake that we made yesterday morning, is we knew we were getting up early and we were just going to eat a small breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
And man, you need to eat because by the middle of the day, not even just by late morning for us, we could feel it. And we finally pulled over and eat some food, and we felt so much better to get rolling and pick the pace back up.
What?
So
in our mind, we thought we'd be at Lava by 1.
Yeah,
we
were like,
in our mind.
It's just none of our timelines worked out.
No.
Well, that's something that you guys did that was smart too. It's another thing that we tell people all the time, and it just goes like this for most people. Eating's important. I mean, you're burning calories like you cannot imagine. So you need to eat a big breakfast every morning, and you need to eat during the day. You need to stop and eat lunch.
Yes.
If you don't do that, and you see people, I see people blow through every stop on day one all the time because, frankly, they're trying to get to the flagpole. They want to be able to say, "Yeah, I made it there." In fact, there were some text messages going around the last few days about, "Oh yeah, I did it faster than those guys." All for people that didn't make it, by the way.
But do you get a prize for?
No,
that's
exactly what we said
when
we took off. I said there are no prizes for being the fastest to the flagpole.
We want to be to Sundance Mountain. Nobody's going to remember if you were fastest to the flagpole. They're going to remember if you make it to Sundance.
Do you know what the prize is for being fastest to the flagpole? A Darwin Award. That's all that. Again, you cannot knock the racer mentality out of a lot of people. And that's why we tell people, beware the eyes of the valley. That was always the expression in climbing. You're up there, you're dealing with a unique set of circumstances. These people that are comparing times are, pardon me, fucking idiots. Because the trails are different. This isn't a controlled course. It can be different from one day to the next.
And the elements.
And the elements, the temperature, 10-degree difference in temperature is insane. And all the local guys know that. So all these people that ride these trails all the time say, well, let's just average all that stuff out. It sounds crazy.
Well, some of those trails yesterday, if we would have got a thunderstorm, everything went right yesterday, and we rode smooth and steady. But we didn't have any equipment problems, brake problems. We didn't have to. Anything like that. Our 18-hour day would have probably been 20 if an afternoon thunderstorm. Which at this time of year, I assume, like Colorado, you got to plan on an afternoon pop-up shower.
We get air mass thunderstorms here.
So I think
the monsoon's already started, so every afternoon there's a possibility of that. We've had pros, really talented riders that couldn't get their bikes up some of that stuff you guys rode yesterday because there's some bentonite and some of that clay on those trails. And when it gets a little bit of rain on it, all of a sudden, I don't care who you are, you're probably not getting your bike up that.
I know we're going to get some rain at some point in there. I think that early start is also a positive to getting ahead of that.
Get you around that.
At least you can get further into it before
for the rain hits.
the rain hits. So.
All right. Well, we're running up on it here. We're right on 30 minutes. Is there anything else you guys want to tell everybody out here that's watching?
No, I know.
Well, congratulations.
Thank
It's a
you,
pleasure meeting both of you.
Actually, there is one thing.
Go ahead.
I want to thank Martin for and everybody who makes this happen. I mean, we like adventures and we like going and riding, and we're always looking for something like this, whether we make it or not. We come up here to have fun and ride on an adventure. We intend on making it, but if we don't, it doesn't matter because thank you for making this. I mean, if you go away or move on, what else? Somebody else take advantage of this way you can.
The next person that takes us on is completely stupid. I'm not going to try to talk you out of it because at some point I want to move on, but you cannot believe. Anyway, that's a subject for another day. Thanks a lot. You guys are absolutely the kind of people that are right for this because you're in for it for the right reasons. You want to have a good time. You have a sense of adventure. You are aware of the fact that the only award for beating everybody else is a Darwin Award. And that's really hard to talk to people about because everybody that rides a motorcycle knows two things: their own name and how much faster they are than everybody else. And that's a real tough barrier to get by. And the interesting thing about it is some of my best friends that I've made through the tour came in here like that. And they got to the end of day one and their minds were right. Did you ever see Cool Hand Luke? Boy, what you got to do is get your mind right. Day one,
that's for sure,
is the big boss of the Tour of Idaho because it helps you get your mind right. So, courtesy of Climb, I got a box of goodies for you guys to go through. Courtesy of Climb, I should say an upshift, so you can get your choice. By virtue of the fact you guys are the first team through this year, I'll give you your choice of the goodie box. We'll go upstairs and have a look at it. So,
awesome.
Everybody else, I'll see you tonight around 7 o'clock for a riders meeting. This video will air once again automatically at around 7:30 or so. I think I set it up for exactly 7:30. So see you all tonight.
Appreciate it.
Bye, guys.
Yeah, we should have done it that way.